Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first of a series of webinars that we'll be doing. Today's topic is the VideoProbe user workshop, where we're going to take you through a number of shortcuts, tips, and tricks for both our hardware and software. My name is Dennis Lavin. I'm here with my colleague Tom Ward. We're standing in the Waygate Technologies North America Visual Headquarters here in Skaneateles, New York. As you can see, we have our CFM56 aircraft engine behind us that we're going to be doing a few demonstrations on. So before I get into today's content, a few housekeeping items. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a few engagement tools. So those are different windows. You can move those around your screen however you'd like. You can make them bigger or smaller. For example, if you want to make the slide deck bigger, you can click the upper right corner to make that bigger. There is an engagement tool where you can enter your information to request in-person demonstration of our equipment or a virtual demonstration. And then if you have questions throughout, definitely enter those in the Q&A panel. We'll definitely get to those and make sure we address your questions towards the end of the presentation. And then finally, if you could, please take a moment and fill out our survey at the end. Those are helpful for us to make sure we're covering the right topics for these webinars. Introductions. Again, my name's Dennis Lavin. I'm a senior product manager. I've been with the business for 19 years now. Both on the commercial side and product management. I'm responsible for the Everest Mentor Flex Video Probe. That's the new scope that we launched last year, as well as the XL Detect and Detect Plus. And Tom Ward, my colleague, is also a senior product manager. He's been with the business for 31 years and manages our most advanced video borescope, the Mentor Visual IQ, which you might be familiar with. So Tom's going to demonstrate a few pointers for you here shortly on the engine. So let's get into the agenda. So first, one thing I'll say is, when we design our video probes, we really try to keep in mind user friendliness and making the user interface intuitive. And so to be honest, you don't need a webinar to know how to use our equipment. You can take it out of the box, hit the power button, and it's very intuitive. That said, if you buy a new phone, a new car, there's always shortcuts and tips that are helpful to make you more efficient. So that's really the purpose of this webinar, is to try to make your life a little bit easier by giving you some pointers on both hardware and software. So the way we'll go about this, we'll sort of logically step through it. So first we'll start with the inspection setup. So I'll take you through some hardware accessories that you might use while you're setting up the equipment. And then on the borescope and the software itself, Tom will take you through some user interface tips. So hard button presses, how to still image capture, video recording. Then he'll take you through measurement tips and tricks. So how to get the most out of your real 3D measurements and become more efficient there. And then finally, we'll wrap things up. I'll go to the settings menu on the device and show you some nice settings that you can manipulate to your preferences. Okay, so let's jump right in. So we'll start with inspection setup. So, in talking to customers, our equipment is used in a wide variety of applications. So it could be an aircraft engine, like a lot of people, but it also could be used on a big, large frame gas turbine, aeroderivative gas turbine. You could be up tower in a wind, looking at a wind turbine gearbox, or in a pharma plant, or looking at heat exchangers. It goes on and on. There's tons of applications. And one thing we've realized in talking to customers over the years is no matter who you ask, most customers don't actually hold on to this handset throughout the entire inspection, right? So they're usually going to set it down or mount it on something or brace it against their hip. And so we set out to design a number of accessories to make life easier. And so we have a variety of accessories I'm going to show you here that are hopefully fit all these different applications. Before I jump into those, one I want to talk to that's not here is the hard shell backpack case. So we offer a number of different system cases that you can choose from. Most people go with the standard carry-on case. It's got the telescoping handle, the wheels, so that's really convenient. It fits in the overhead compartment on an aircraft. But the hard shell backpack case, depending on what you're doing, can be a really helpful case because you have your hands free, right? So if you're going up a ladder or stairs or scaffolding, you have your hands free. It's a much safer deal because you can hold on. So just be aware that we do have a backpack case offering out there. So let's show you some actual accessories here. Now, this would be the point where if you see my webcam video, I would suggest making that larger. So if you could click the top right corner of that, make that larger, because we're not going to look at the slides right now. We're going to actually look at me demonstrating these. So the first accessory I have here, this is called the handset holder. Some people call it the handset cradle. And this it's a molded polycarbonate thing that mounts right on the back of the handset. You can see here there is a 1/4-20 screw, and that screws into a number of different accessories. And so what you do here is this just snaps right on the back of the Everest Mentor Flex here, and then you can adapt this to multiple accessories. Now, one thing we did differently on this model was we made a nice little kickstand that's integrated. So that kickstand extends out, and then it's just going to prop the handset up. I'll move my camera so you can see. So you get a nice viewing angle of the display. And then when you're done with it, you can just put that away, and it kind of folds up nicely. So that's the handset holder. Now, the next couple accessories are used for mounting the handset, hanging it from an asset, so like an engine, for instance. So we actually designed this to try to be as user-friendly as possible. So if you see this little cylinder right here that's right integrated in the top of the Mentor Flex housing, that's called a QD connector. It stands for Quick Disconnect. And we have a couple different accessories that fit right into that. So the first one we have, this is called the hook, and it's just got a male QD connector on the end. So if you see here, I can that just snaps right in, and now I can hang that from the engine. So it's quick, easy. You don't have to worry about clamping anything down on the tubing and causing damage. It just hangs right over, and it's a 360 swivel, so you can swivel it to get the right screen angle. Now, depending on what you're mounting the borescope to, maybe this hook radius doesn't work for you if you have to manipulate in between several things. So we have another accessory that fits in that QD connector. We just call this the strap. It's a nylon strap, and it's got that same QD connector at the end, and it's got this clip. So what you do is just clip this around, and there's a cam buckle where you can open that up and cinch it tighter to adjust the how long it is. So the way I like to use this, first you put the strap on the asset you're hanging on. So you start by clipping that on, and then you're going to hang your borescope from the strap. That just clips right in. The nice part about this is you can adjust the length or the height of the borescope. So I could take this cam buckle, if I just tighten that up, I can raise it or lower it. So it's real handy. The other thing about this strap is you can throw it over your shoulder to transport the borescope to the job site. Now, one thing that strap is not good for is a neck strap. You don't want to put that around your neck to view the screen because it's going to block your angle of the screen. We have a different accessory that was built just for that. So this is called the lanyard. It's basically a neck strap. You can see I have that cradle already attached. It just attaches with a 1/4-20 screw. So you just put this over your neck, and the borescope is just going to snap right in to that handset holder. And the nice part about this is, if you can see, I'll adjust my screen. So it takes the weight off of your hands, right? So you can brace the battery of the scope on your hip, and the straps aren't obstructing my view to the display. So basically now my hands are free to manipulate the insertion tube, use the touch screen, that sort of thing. So that's the lanyard. That's a helpful tool if you need hands-free. So the next accessory is part of the carry-on case for the Everest Mentor Flex. We call this the telescoping pole. It's just what it sounds like. So it's going to fit in the case and telescope out to be hands-free. My favorite part about this is it actually fits. It's custom made to fit in the case. So everything fits right in that small carry-on case. So the way that you use this, first you're going to want to connect the handset holder to the quarter 20. So I just screw that on. I'm going to loosen these knobs, and this is just going to extend out. Tighten them up, and you can, make this as long or short as you'd like. Tighten those down. And then this feature here, this actually slots right into a fixture on the carry-on case. You can't see it, it's on the ground, but I have a case right here that it just slides into. So if you can see here, now I have my telescoping pole. Take my handset, clips right in, and then I have a 360-degree swivel. So now I'm hands-free. I can use my insertion tube to manipulate that in the engine, use my touchscreen to perform measurements, and it's a really handy feature that you don't have to hold onto the handset the whole inspection. That's the telescoping pole. So the last accessory that I want to talk to is one that's been around for years, but we can't underestimate how helpful this is. So this is the gripper and rigidizer, and it's just what it sounds like. It basically takes a flexible insertion tube and makes it rigid. So I think what I'll do is just put this back on here so I can show you. There we go. So what you do is, if you don't need the flexibility of the insertion tube, you're going to put this right in the rigidizer, and you can lock it in right before the bending neck of the probe, right? So I can still articulate the end of the probe, but then I can use this in an application where I don't need flexibility. It's an extra layer of protection for the insertion tube. Now, if you do need the flexibility of the tube, which most applications require, you can still use this gripper, right? So it's really helpful. A lot of customers will slide this on and it locks onto the tube. And now it's a really helpful way to rotate the tube. And so for longer inspections, it really saves on hand fatigue. A lot of pushing and twisting, and it's very helpful instead of having to grab onto that tube. Now the last thing about this gripper that's a new addition that we added, if you look here, there's a little quarter 20 stud that's inserted there. And what that does is it connects to the magic arm so you can hold the insertion tube free. So I'll show you that. I have a magic arm mounted here on the engine. So that just connects there, and then you can put your tube in there. Now my tube's hands-free, and ideally, obviously, that would be in the borescope port, and you don't have to hold on to your tube the whole time. So that's the gripper with the quarter 20 stud. So that's all the accessories I had to share with you. Again, if you have any questions, put those right in the Q&A panel. I wanted to take a pause real quick and walk you through a quick poll question. So if you could, go ahead and answer this one. So what accessory do you use most during your inspections? And if you don't use these yet, which one do you think would be most valuable to use in the future? So we have the magic arm. That's a standard C-clamp mount where you can clamp the handset to an engine. You have the gripper and rigidizer that we just walked through. The QD, quick disconnect hook, or quick disconnect strap. Those are the two accessories that let you hang the borescope to the engine. You have the neck strap. So that's for somebody who might want to hold the handset, but they want to take the weight off their hands. You can put it around your neck and take the weight off of it. The telescoping pole, that's a newer addition, and that's the one that we showed you right here with the handset. Or is it none of the above? So take a minute if you could, and let's see if we get some answers for that one. Okay, let's take a look at the results. Okay, 50% on magic arm mount and 50% on gripper and rigidizer. Okay, interesting. Those are the two accessories that have probably been around the longest, so definitely popular, so I could see how that would be. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Tom Ward, who's going to take you through some user interface tips.
I think so. Hi, team. Hopefully everybody can hear me. And Dennis, thanks. That was a great review of the products that we use to hold the equipment. Hello, everybody. What I want to talk about today, and if you're a user or even if you're not a user of the Mentor Visual IQ, I want you to focus your attention on the slide deck so you can make that bigger if it's smaller in your presentation using the tools that Dennis talked about. And I want to just first say that what we've tried to do with our user interface over the years is make it as sort of thin as possible in terms of how deep you have to get in to do the things that you want to do. And I think with the Mentor Visual IQ, we've achieved that in a good way, as well as having what we call a dual user interface. So if you look at this image here, you'll see the hard buttons on the bottom that are around the joystick that you use to articulate. And then you'll see up above, you'll see those little, what we call soft keys along the bottom of the screen. And those soft keys, as anybody that uses our equipment knows, are aligned with the non-logoed buttons below. And so you can either hit the button, as an example, on the left side there, you see MDI, and below that on the left side, the button right underneath that would be another way to activate MDI. And those soft keys, they actually change based on what state you're in. So if you're in a live state, or if you're in an annotation state, or if you're in a measurement state, you'll see that those buttons will change to provide the tools needed for that particular task that you're trying to perform. But what I want to talk about today is some multiple uses of these hard buttons along the bottom. And so you see on the left-hand side there, you'll see the big large arrow, also used to turn the system on. That's called the back button. Next to that is a floppy disk logo, so that's our save button. Next one over is the menu button, and then lastly is what we call our enter button, which is the smaller, thinner arrow. And so each of those buttons has multiple commands that it can do. So I'm going to start on the left, and I'm going to walk through what each of those buttons will do for you. But before that, I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you live here. Just be a second while we're doing that. And so we'll let that little graphic at the bottom roll away. But so hopefully everybody now can see my screen. And so if you remember the graphic I just showed you with these buttons at the bottom of the screen, we're going to start with the back button. So with the back button, the main function of this is to go back one screen. So for instance, I've just made a freeze frame of the image that you see on the screen there, and you can tell because of the little FF in the top left corner. If I just push that back button once, you'll see that'll go back to my live screen. So that's a handy way to get back. But I could also hit a freeze frame as an example, go in to an annotation screen. Maybe I then decide I want to go into file manager settings. While I'm doing that, I'm like, wait a minute, I want to go back to live. I don't have to keep hitting that back button one at a time to get me back. I can just do a long press on that back button. That's what I've just done now. That'll automatically take me back to the live screen. So that's a handy way if you're in the middle of something and you don't really care about what you're involved in terms of you just want to get back to live screen, just a long press there, and away you go. So that is a secondary function of the back button on a long press. The next button that we have is the save button. That was the one that I told you had the little floppy disk from way back when. Anybody that's an older inspector, customer, or salesperson in our business will remember floppy disks way back when. So on the save button, really easy to do. If I just, I'll freeze frame again. I don't need to. In fact, I could be on a live screen. And if I just do a quick press on that, you'll see that that's saved that image for me. And that'll save it into the location that you've predetermined that you want your images to be saved in, a folder structure. So that's what that does. Now, if I do a long press on that, I will bring up a menu system. So this is another way where I can just go in and save now if that's what I want to. You'll see the save is identified as the active button there with the orange border around it. But I could also select a different save folder. So I could select that, go in, change my save folder. I could rename the image there, and I can even add a little audio clip. So say I want to point out something to a colleague, hey, I think this is a crack, take a quick look at this, and I want to do that with audio. I can connect that little audio clip to that live image. So that's the long press on the save button will do that for you. And then lastly on the save button, and this is kind of cool, it's especially helpful if you're doing some sort of training or if you just want a screenshot that has everything within the image in it. Because when we save our images, we're not showing like the soft keys at the bottom there. But if you just want a screen capture, just like you might do with your cell phone, you just do a double press and you'll see that across the top there, I've now done a screen capture of exactly what's on the screen. That screen capture will go in to a folder that's within whatever folder you're saving your images to. So if you're saving images to a folder called test images, you go into that test images folder and you'll see another folder in there that says screenshots, and all your screenshots will be saved into that folder. So a nice way to be able to take a screenshot and then go find it. So that is 3 different ways that you can use the save button on the iCUE. I'm now going to go to the menu, the next one along the bottom there. And the menu button also has 3 things that it can do. So I can do the short press again, talk about that. That brings me to my global menu, and from there I can decide what I want to do, go into settings, I can shut the system down, record, file manager, whatever I want to do there. And then I quickly hit it again, and I'm able to just come back to my live screen. But if I do a long press on that menu button, which I'll do right now, you'll see that the system will then move to the second set of soft keys that are available to me depending on what state I'm in. So I'm in a live state. What you saw there in the live state is I always have up to 8 choices on my screen. So there's the 4 on the first row, and then I'm going to do a long press again. So we go back to the first row, you see those, see them come back up. I go back, you can see those same soft buttons, the second set of soft buttons are there. So that's an easy way for me to move those back and forth. And you can do the same thing on the bottom right. You see that little rectangle with the black on the top and then the gray color on the bottom, and that obviously changes when you hit that. So I do a long press on that, and you can see that I've now gone back to the number 1 screen. So that's the long press on the menu button. It's a handy thing to know. And then lastly, I can do a double press on the menu button. So I'm going to do that now, and that will hide my soft keys. So those I can take out of the way if I want to take a picture, if I'm doing a video recording, or if I just want to see live video at the bottom in that area and I don't have the ability to move the camera to a different position. That live video is actually behind there, and you can take a look at that. And then if I just do a double press again, it'll come back up. Again, on the touchscreen, I can do the same thing by double pressing that little icon at the bottom that I just referenced. So those are 3 ways that you can use your menu button. And lastly, I want to talk about the enter button. The enter button is pretty basic. You just hit enter, and that will freeze the image for you, or it will enter a command that you want entered. So whenever you're trying to do something where it requires a command, you just hit the enter button there. But the other thing that enter button can do, I just hit it again, it took me back to live, so it unfroze that image, is if I have a 3D phase tip on there, I can do a long press on that, and that will do a 3D phase capture. So I'm going to do that right now. You can see it's telling me to keep the probe still, and it's capturing my image. That is the way into a freeze frame capture, and now I could hit the measurement key there. For all those of you that are measurers, you'll see you can hit that, go in, and go forward with your measurement. But I'm going to back out of there now because we're not going to do that measurement. And so that is the hard buttons across this. Now, there's a couple other things I wanted to talk about related to the user interface, kind of cool things. There's a kind of a hidden button. This is another menu button that's part of the touchscreen. So you see at the bottom left, you see the little Waygate logo down there at the bottom left of the touchscreen of the monitor. I can simply hit in that area, and that will bring up my menu, and I can hit again, and it will take me out of that menu. So a cool little way to quickly get access to the menu. And that logo will always be sitting there. Dennis is going to talk about a way that you could actually change that logo if you'd like to have something else in that area. And the second thing, I already talked about hiding the soft keys, so that's where we did the double tap. We hide them, double tap back. You can do that either with the menu hard button, as I talked about, or on screen. And then lastly, and this is kind of interesting, way to customize your system. Let's just say, let me go to the next set of soft keys. You see, let's say recall there. We'll use that one. Maybe I use that all the time and I don't want to keep having to refer back to that second set of soft keys. I can simply long press any one of those keys. It doesn't matter. I'll do recall because we're talking about it, but it doesn't matter which one I long press. I just simply do a long press, and you'll see that it'll bring up all 8 options that I have in that particular state that I'm in. And now it allows me, when it's in this state, to move. So I could move that, and I could drop recall up there. Now I go back to my first set, and now you'll see that recall's back on the first set of soft keys. And I've changed that. I've decided to change that with annotation because in my particular inspection, I'm not using annotation all the time. So a really quick way for you to be able to get at the soft keys you want to get at and move them around in the order you want to move them in. And you can move those around in any order, left to right, or from the first screen to the second screen. So a cool way to do that. So I hope that was helpful for any of you that are using the equipment today. Maybe you learned something. For any of you not using the equipment, please feel free to set up a demo, and we can get into a little more detail here and show you how our UI is really easy, intuitive to use, and really streamlined to help you work more efficiently. So now I'm going to go and talk a little bit about some measurement tips that we have. So what I'll do first is I'm going to go into my file manager, and I am going to, where's the screen I want? I'm going to go up a level. Get in here. I'm going to go into sample images here. You see the folder at the top right called sample images. I'll click in there. By the way, anyone, including our customers, that gets a video borescope, you'll see that sample images folder in there. It can be handy to do internal training that you might have. It has examples of a lot of different measurement types that we have. I'm actually going to go into this one here. This is a measurement of a kind of a pit that's sitting on a piece of metal here. And then I'm going to click on measure. That takes me back in so that I'm able to go and remeasure that if I want to. And what I want to talk about right now is a feature called depth assist. And I'm going to go in and I will delete this measurement. And I'm going to go set up a depth measurement by hitting add measurement, which is what was there before. But I just want to call your attention to what happens here. So if I bring this cursor up here, put another one there, and then create a plane, you can see that it happened really quickly. But if you look at the little kind of a magenta color there, that fourth cursor, I never actually placed that cursor. And you could place that cursor if you wanted to, but when depth assist is working, it automatically will find the deepest point of that little pit that we're looking at and drop it right in there. And I can even turn on my depth map, which was on when I brought up the image, and you can see that the darker red areas is the bottom, and then as it gradiates up, it goes to a blue, which is less depth there. I'm going to turn that off for a second now. And so the other thing I want to show you is this, what we call a snapback option. So I'm going to go over here and grab the cursor that was dropped to the bottom of that pit. You can see it highlighted in that blue circle. And I'm going to move that up that wall a little bit. And you can see as I move it up that wall on both sides, there's this little puddling effect. That's basically saying, hey, you've moved your cursor away from the deepest point, and I'm going to show you, almost like the depth map, what that deepest point looks like. And you can even see this, if I rotate this point cloud, you can see where that cursor is now moved up the wall a little bit. Now, I may want to do that to just kind of test out the depth of some of these areas around this cursor, just to sort of learn a bit about this. But maybe I want to now be back in the deepest point. An easy way to do that is I'm just going to do a long press on that cursor. I'm going to hold it, and you can see there it snapped back in, put me right back into the deepest point. You can test that by looking at your point cloud, see that it's back where it's supposed to be. So a handy little thing, depth assist, so automatically finding the deepest point. And then as you play around or try to learn about different aspects of that feature, you can simply drop it back in, save the image, or proceed how you want to there. So that is depth assist in the snapback version of that, which is a reset to the deepest point. Now, I'd like to use the same image. I'm going to go back in here, actually hit reset. And now I'm going to go on this point cloud, and I'm going to click to full image because I want to talk about something called perspective lines. Perspective lines are kind of handy way to look at an image. And let me see, let me get this over here a little bit. So if you see those dotted lines at the top there, that is essentially showing the user the perspective that the camera's seeing. That's the angle of the camera which is looking at that feature. So that's a way to sort of give yourself some clarity on what you're looking at there and how that's coming into that feature, because it doesn't always have to be perpendicular with real 3D measurement. You can be at many different off angles and still get very accurate measurements. And the other thing we did recently to even help this, and it'd be helpful to do a screenshot as well if you want to show a colleague this, I can go in to my second set of soft keys and click on the bottom right there where it says show tip model. In this case, I have a side view tip on the product, and so it's showing the side view perspective, and you can see the perspective lines coming out of that camera lens that's looking at the image. So kind of a cool way to be able to look at that. And I can even get a bigger view of that. If I just hit my point cloud view, you can see a nice big view of what that would look like for you. So that is perspective lines. Coming back now, the other thing I wanted to show you here is I'm going to move my measurement around. You see it's in the little blue box there. And you can see that that's in millimeters right now. I might want to quickly go back and say, maybe I want to see this in inches, or maybe I want to take pictures of both because I've got colleagues that use different measurement units around the world. So all I have to do is just do a long press. So I just touch my finger, do a long press there, and you see it just switched over to inches. Simply do a long press again, and it'll switch back to millimeters. So just a quick, easy way. You can have set in your settings menu, you can set that up for how you want that to always show. But if you do need to go back and forth, no need to go into the settings menu, you just simply long press that little result and it'll flip back and forth between the units that you want it to be in. So that's an easy way to change measurement units. Okay, I am now going to back out of here and I'm going to go back to that folder with the sample images. Click on this picture, and now what I want to show you is how we can add a cursor in a multi-segment or an area measurement. So I'm going to click measure. I'm going to go in this case, make an area measurement, and I'll just make, let's just say, a little box around here because I want to measure, for some reason I want to measure this area on this blade, right? And I've measured the area on the blade, but actually I'd like to get more into it. Now I could grab on to either of the cursors and start dragging them around a little bit. It'll work that way. But the other thing I can do is I can just touch and long press on that blue cursor that you see there, and that's just going to pop another cursor in between those 2 points. And then I could drag that down a little bit. Maybe that's what I want. Maybe I'll make this next cursor over here, do a long press here. Just gives you a little quick way to kind of add cursors and change the shape of your area or your multi-segment. With multi-segment, it would just put another cursor in between the segment sections there so you can refine it a little bit. So that is multi-area cursor add. This is just a little trick that you may not know about that allows you to be just a little bit more efficient as you're setting up these types of measurement. So I hope you found that useful. I'm back out of here now again. What I'm doing when I say no there is these are images that are in your sample image folder. I want to keep those the way they were, so I said no, I don't want to save it. You could simply save it and say yes, I do want to save it, and save it as a new image and put that in whatever folder you store your images in very easily, and then get to it through your file manager. So coming back here and talking about the last thing that I want to talk about today on tips and tricks for measurement, I think it's kind of most people think about depth measurement and they think, well, I can measure from the top of a weld to the bottom of a little pit within that weld or something along those lines. But really, depth measurement works very, very well for any type of measurement where you're on a surface and you want to find out how far away a point is that's not on that surface. So you can see here one example of that. Another example would be tip to shroud measurements, a common measurement where you're measuring the tip of the blade to the shroud, that little gap. This is a measurement of a pipe where I want to know the inner diameter of that pipe. And you can see that we've done that with 2 depth measurements. It works quite well. So click measure here to show you why this is a cool way to do it. And I will then go in, I'm going to delete this measurement. And I'm going to say, okay, maybe what I'll try to do is add a measurement. I want to do that depth measurement or that inner diameter of that pipe. I'm going to try to do it with length. So I grab my cursor for length. I try to approximate across there. And I say, oh, there you go. Well, you can see that's a much different result than we have with the depth measurement, that 15.62 millimeters. And if I go over to my point cloud view, you can see the reason why is I'm not able to get that right straight across the pipe. I'm back or forth in the pipe wall a little bit. So even though it may look, even if I did it really well, it may look like I've got that ID, it's probably not accurate. So the best way to do that is to use a need to go back to the side. The best way to do that is to use a depth measurement. So you simply set up your depth measurement. We'll say I'll add that measurement back. You see one example of it there. I go into depth here. I place my cursors and make my little nice little triangle, and I want to tell you, you see the green masking that pops in there. It's important to try to get a nice solid green mask, because what that means is that little triangle on the surface that I'm measuring away from, those points are all very, very close to each other from a plane, talking about being on the same plane. And so then you see now I've created that. It's dropped my other point there. And if I go back into my point cloud, you can see that I now have a nice straight line across that pipe. And you can see that we've got a pretty reasonable idea of that pipe, down to some pretty close tolerances there. So again, we'll hop out of here. That is what I had to share with you on measurement tips. So I appreciate everybody paying attention there. Any questions, please load those in the chat. We'll try to get to those. Any different type of stuff you want to learn about measurement, please share that with us so we could plan for that maybe in the survey, so that we can do something different in the future. And so with that, I will now hand it back over to my colleague, Dennis, who will take you through some more content.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Very informative. So now I'm going to take you through the settings menu. I have my Everest Mentor Flex right here that I'm going to switch over to in a minute and show you some live video. But first, let me just take you through the slide just to ground us in a few of these settings, and then we'll show you real time. So the first one I wanted to talk through were the touch icon settings. So Tom alluded to it before. If you look on your live video of a Mentor Visual IQ or Everest Mentor Flex, we have these things called touch icons. They're essentially just buttons that are on the live video that are semi-transparent. So you have like a video record touch icon, save touch icon, a back touch icon. And those are helpful because they're easy to get to, especially if you're in touchscreen mode and not using the hard keys. But if you don't tend to use those, you can get rid of those to kind of clean up your video and maximize your viewing space of the live video. So you can turn those off. Now, one way Tom mentioned was you can double tap that toggle button, but you can go in the settings and turn them off as well. So I'll show you that in a minute here. The next one is the logo in the bottom left corner of your video. So your system will come with a Waygate logo as standard, but you have the ability to customize that and load your own company logo, which is nice because if you save an image, save a measurement or video, that logo is part of it. And so you can represent your company in that way. The next one I'll show you are over-the-air software updates. So just like your iPhone or Android, we offer software updates over the air wirelessly. And so we have a whole team of software engineers that are constantly working to improve our software, develop new features, fix bugs, security updates, and it's very easy to take advantage of those new features with an over-the-air software update. So I'll show you that one. And then user profiles. This is a handy one. So if you change any of these settings that I'm going to show you, you can actually save that to your own user profile. So let's say you have multiple technicians using the same borescope. It's just like if you have more than one person driving your car, right? They change your seat setting, your mirror. Well, maybe you can go in and press that button and have it go back to your exact seat setting and mirror setting, which is helpful. So that's the same thing with profiles. I'll show you that one. And then we'll wrap up with steering sensitivity settings. So that's basically either how fast or slow the probe articulates or how responsive, how much feel there is there when you're articulating. So we'll show you that one. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to flip over to live video here on my Everest Mentor Flex. Bear with me for a moment. Okay, so once that bar gets out of the bottom there. Okay, so you should be seeing my live video for my Everest Mentor Flex. I have a side view tip on. I'm in the high compressor section, and I'm going to show you a few of these settings. So the first one was touch icon settings. So if you look at the right side of my video here, you see a record, a save, and a back touch icon. So as Tom mentioned, if I double tap the bottom right corner here, it's going to clean up all those settings, right? My whole video gets nice and clean. I can see everything. But what if I want to use just one of these but not the other two? So I can go into the settings menu. The way you get to that is you hit the Waygate logo on the bottom left. That takes you to the global menu. Then you're going to go to settings. And now I'm going to go down to screen and display. And now I have all these different icons that I can either leave on or turn off. So I'm going to turn off the tip map. Let's turn off the save icon, back icon, and record icon. So those are off. I go back, and there you go. So your touch icons, your tip map's gone. So just more clean video to view. If you're recording videos, it's a cleaner video to have on hand. So I'm just going to go back quickly and turn those back on. So that's touch icon settings. The next one was company logo and how you customize that. So if you turn your attention to the bottom left corner of my video, you see it's a transparent Waygate Technologies logo. Well, the way to customize that is first on your PC, you need to create the logo file, right? So take your company logo and you want to have it no larger than 140 by 140 pixels. That works best. If it's bigger than that, won't fit in this location. And it's best if it's square. I guess it works best. It fits in that footprint better if it's a square in shape. So now I go into settings. And so if you're going to take that logo, put it on a thumb drive, right? Pop the thumb drive into your handset and then go to settings, system. And if you see this line that says logo, I'm going to tap load. And now you see this file called logo.png. That's important. The file has to be a .png file type. And so I'm just going to tap that. And it says logo image updated. So there you go. So now I have a new logo. This is just a fake one we created that says logo, but that's where your new company logo would be stored. So the next one I want to show you are over-the-air software updates. So if I hit that new logo, I'm going to go back to settings. And if you go all the way to the top, the about menu, if you look at that very top row, it says software update 1.6 and it says latest. So anytime there's a new software update available, we're going to push that out. And if your borescope is connected wirelessly, it's going to find that software update automatically and download it to your system. Now, it's not installed yet, so you still have to take the action to go in here and hit the install button, and it will take about 5 minutes, and you'll install that new software. Now, this version isn't even available yet. This 1.6 is coming in Q4 on the Everest Metro Flex, so stay tuned for that one. We have some nice features coming. So obviously the key is make sure you're connected wirelessly, and you just go to the connectivity tab here to connect your borescope to Wi-Fi. So that's over-the-air software updates. The next one is user profiles. So how do I create a new user profile? So again, you're going to tap the logo icon and go to the global menu, and there's a profiles tile on the left side. I'm going to tap that. So I have only one profile created. I have the default and then my dentist profile. So every time I boot up my borescope, I see the option to select one of these profiles. So if I want to, let's do a new one here. Let's just call it tests profile. We'll hit done. So now I have this new profile and I'm going to select it. And now I'm logged into that particular profile. And now any setting that I change, you know, if I had turned off the video record icon or save icon, that's going to save to that profile. And then every time I boot it up, I don't have to go change those things again. It's just ready to go, ready to operate. So, you know, this kind of ties in. I'm going to go and show you steering sensitivity. And when I make these changes, it's going to tie back to that profile. So the next time I boot it up, my steering sensitivity is how I like it. So let's go in. We're going to go back to the settings, of course. I'm going to go to the System tab, and I'm going to scroll all the way down. So when you think about the way our probes articulate, there's two steering modes. One mode is called steer and stay mode. So steer and stay is when you press that bottom trigger button on your borescope, it's going to lock in the probe. So anytime I articulate, when I stop articulating, the probe holds its exact position. So we have a setting to change the speed at which that articulates. And then steer mode is when you're not in steer and stay mode, right? It's just you articulate, and if you let go, the probe kind of wants to go back towards center and relax the steering cables. So I'm going to show you how to change each of these settings. So let's start with steer and stay mode. So this applies only when I'm in steer and stay, of course. When I hit that, I bring up this slider bar. And this one's very simple. It's straightforward. If I slide the slider to the left, my probe's going to articulate slower. If I slide it to the right, it's going to articulate faster. So it's simply a way to adjust the speed at which the probe articulates. So if you want to, you know, I tend to like it right in the middle, so you have a more controlled articulation rather than having it be too fast. So I'm going to leave it right in the middle and save that to my profile by hitting done. So now it's tied to my profile. Now for steer and stay mode, we give you a little bit more flexibility with the way to adjust this. Excuse me, let me go back. Steer mode. So this one, we found people weren't real keen on what this actually does, the slider bar. So we actually added a tutorial right in the software in the top to tell you exactly what you're adjusting. So if I adjust the slider to the left, it's going to give me finer articulation precision, or I guess responsiveness, when my probe is hooked over past 90 degrees. Okay, so it's going to be more precise when I'm 90 degrees to 180 degrees. So maybe you're in a, I don't know, maybe the combustion section of an engine and you're hooking over a lot and you need more precision when you're hooked over. So that's when I'm going to go to the left if I want that mode. And you don't have to go all the way to the left, you can slide it just a couple increments. Now if I go to the right, that's for folks who most of their articulation is between 0 degrees, so that's pointed straight out, and 90 degrees. So if most of my articulation, like this application, I'm looking right at some compressor blades, so I'm not articulating much here. So if I'm 0 to 90, I'm going to go to the right and I'll get more responsiveness and precision there. And the nice part about this, you can actually test it out real time. So I make the adjustment, I can test it out, I have live video, I don't have to hit done yet. Now obviously this isn't a great spot to be testing articulation, I have a side view tip on and I'm looking at compressor blades, but it is nice that you can test it before selecting it and finalizing it. So I'm going to go right to the middle and hit done, and now that's tied to my profile. So that's just a few settings. You know, you can go into the settings menu. There's plenty more. We couldn't fit them all in this hour, but so that's all I had to share on settings. But if you have any questions, definitely enter those right in the Q&A panel. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my video. Go back to the slide deck here. And I think we have one more poll question we'd like to ask you to answer for us. So the question is, what setting adjustment do you find most useful? So we tried to cover the main ones here. There are several others. So of those that I covered, you know, screen and display, the touch icons, do you find yourself adjusting those often? Steering sensitivity, I have a feeling that one's going to be valuable. People are pretty particular with how they like the probe to steer. Software updates, over-the-air software updates, is that a helpful setting? And then measurement and annotation. So that's another setting that you can tweak, or none of the above. Maybe it's something else that we didn't cover today. So go ahead and take a moment. I'll give you a couple more seconds to fill that out, and then we'll take a peek at the results. Okay. Another tie, 33% on screen and display and steering sensitivity. Okay, that makes sense. Some people don't want all the icons on their video, so they turn off the icons. And measurement and annotation, so third each. Interesting. Okay, so I think that's all we had for the presentation. So the next, we're just going to take it to some questions. I think Tom's going to take you through some Q&A if we have any.
Muted. Hey, thanks, Dennis. So yeah, let's take a look at some questions here. What are you seeing there, Dennis? Let me see. Looks like we have one asking about this information. Yeah, we will make this information available. These webinars are posted, and I think it'll be sent to all the audience members. Gina can correct me if I'm there. So you should get a look at this, as well as we'd like to review this, and some of these tips and tricks we'll try to push out there onto LinkedIn so we can share with a wider audience there. So yeah, that's a good question. And then secondly, on that point, you know, we only get an hour. We're trying to pick and choose which things we think might be helpful for our users. So please give us some feedback there. But to go along with that, we have training in as much depth as any customer could want, right? We can do it here at our place. We can do it over in Cincinnati. We can come to the customer place, and we can have up to 3 days worth of very detailed and in-depth training. So if you're looking for more training and in more depth, please reach out to your local sales rep, and we can try to help find some time or a good time to be able to help you with that. So that's always available. What else do we have there? Let's see. Interchangeable. Will we have interchangeable probes in the future for Mentor Flex? That's a very good question. So we're always looking at the market, and if we see a need for that, we certainly would put that together as a program. So it's nothing that's happening immediately here, but it's a great question, and appreciate you asking that. I'm hearing that we lost audio. So hopefully some of you folks can hear me. My audio is on.
I can still hear you.
So to Ron Kessler, sorry, I don't know if you want to try to rejoin there, Ron. I think we have at least some audio here. When we do measure for 3D PM, sometimes we get red area. What is that? Okay, that's another really good question. So with 3D phase, we're collecting information, 3D information of the area of the indication that you're trying to measure. And sometimes, for a variety of reasons, because of the image, because of surrounding noise, because of how far away you might be, we're not able to collect enough 3D data to present a point cloud so that you can measure on that. So in those cases, we show red area, which means we aren't able to show data there, so you can't measure in that area. So the best thing to do there is to try to reposition the probe, always try to get closer so that you can get an image without that red area, and then you'll be able to go ahead and use those measurement tools. I hope that helps answer that question. See, I'm trying to go through here. Can you go over the depth where it shows the tip in the 3D image? I'm not understanding exactly what your question is. Please reach out to me, tom.ward@bakerhughes.com. With a little more specificity, I can even get on the phone with you and go over that one with you. I'll be able to resolve that. Let's see. Is there a way to change the text annotation size or color? Oh, great question. For this one, I'm actually going to go and share my screen again, and I can show you that really quickly. So I'll share my screen. I need you to read the questions going forward. Okay, so pull this up. So hide this. So hopefully everybody now is seeing my screen. Actually, this is a good image to use that I'm on already. So from before, I'm still in that sample image folder. I'm just going to click on this one, and I'll go in, and you can see in my recalled image, annotation is one of the options that I have available to me. Just to recap again, you can see that there are other options on the second set of soft keys. So again, always 8 possibilities. I'm going to click on annotation, and I'll drop an arrow in there. It's white, as you can see, so a little hard to see in this particular image. So depending on the image that you have, you may want to change colors and backgrounds and text. I'll put a little test text there, and you can see that that is in there. So that's annotation. Now, can I change that? So I'm going to go into settings here, and you see in settings, I'm in measure and annotation. Okay, good. Let me scroll. Okay, you can see I'm in the annotation now. So annotation text color, annotation text background color, so that's what it sits on, not the image, but the background color of a little box it sits in, and then the border of that box. So I can make changes there. So here I will go, let's say that we'll change that to white. Maybe that'll show up. White wasn't showing up great. Let's say we'll change that to green. We'll make the text box white, and the border color we'll make green too, let's say. And then the size, right? So you may want it small, like I have it positioned now, to keep it sort of out of the way and not covering a large part of the screen. Or you might want to really call this out. So I might want to make that large. So there's small, medium, large setting there that you can put on there. And then the same with the arrow. So I'm going to change the color of that arrow to, say, orange, because that's one of my favorite colors. Arrow size will also make that large, just to show you the difference. So now I'm going to go back in here, and you can see that hasn't changed the original text annotation, but if I do new text annotation now, so I'll drop another arrow, and you can see now I've changed to the large arrow, that up there, so it's near it, and then I'll do a little text, and I'll do test 2 here. Say done, and you can see that that's dropped in. Grab the wrong one there. The new text images. So hopefully that's helpful. So just play around with that. Really for text and annotation, there's a lot of options that you have there. Try to get one that shows up good if you're trying to get somebody to see what you're pointing at there, and you can make your arrows as big or small or whatever color it fits the background scene best. So hopefully that was helpful there. I'm going to go back to you.
So Jose had a question here, Tom, hopefully you can address. He asked, what is the real difference between 3D phase measurement and 3D stereo measurement?
It's a great question. So we have developed a couple different technologies, real 3D phase, real 3D stereo, along with traditional stereo that has been around for quite a long time. And so just first with the real 3D stereo and phase, these are measurement types that are allowing you to collect a 3D point cloud of the data that you're measuring, which is extremely helpful to refer to when you make a measurement, because you can move that 3D point cloud around to get a look at the measurement that you're making and make sure you've actually measured what you wanted to measure. It also allows you to take a look at the data quality that refers back to that red masking question we got a little while ago. So both are good choices and both have pros and cons. So one of the things with 3D phase that's really helpful is it's what we call on-demand measurement. That means I can put on my 3D phase forward or side view tips. We have 4 different options there. And I can actually go in and inspect using those tips. Gives me a great view. In fact, it's a really good, high quality tip for just general inspection. But then when I want to measure something, I don't have to remove the tip. I can simply go into phase measure and I can take that measurement and then move on about my inspection work. With a stereo tip, because of the principles of stereo, I'm actually getting, it's kind of like your eyes. I have 2 halves, right? So I have a left half and a right half of the same image, and then those are used together to triangulate on what you're measuring, and that's how stereo provides the data set that you can then go in and use to make an actual measurement of a defect or an indication that you want to look at. So with stereo, you have that dual image. Now you can go into what we call single view, where you can just use 1/2 of that image, but you lose resolution there, and it's a little bit difficult to navigate when you have the dual image there. So stereo image does work quite well, however, in some shinier areas. So if you get into an area where phase is working well for you for that particular image because it's really, really shiny, that's where you'll get a lot of that red masking. You could try a stereo tip there, and a lot of times with even like an oily or a brighter area, you'll be able to measure that with a stereo tip. So it just depends on the application, but that's kind of the primary differences on that one.
Okay, it looks like we have one more question, and I can take this one. I think somebody's asking, is there a hard key to control video recording? So is there a hard button to control how you record video? So let me go ahead and share my screen. I can show this one. So I'm going to go to my video real quick. So I skipped over here. So on the Everest Mentor Flex, the top trigger button, which is on the back of the handle, if you press that's a video record button. So a single press starts video recording, another press will pause it, and a long press will stop the video recording. So when you buy the system out of the box, that's what it defaults to. Now, if you want that button to be a freeze frame button instead, you can go to the settings menu, which you're seeing here, and you can turn it off. You go to off, and it's just going to make that top trigger button be freeze frame. Now on the Mentor Visual IQ, the default for the top trigger button is going to be a freeze enter button. Okay, and if you long press that, it's going to give you a 3D phase capture, which is a nice shortcut. But you can go into the settings on the Mentor Visual IQ just like this and make that top trigger button default to video record. So yes, the answer is that you can have a hard key for video record controls. Okay, I think that's...
I want to jump in then.
Okay. Let me just go back to the pitch here. Down on you.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. Hey, we're at the end of our hour. I do have one more thing I'd like to share with everyone. I'd like to always let you know this. One of the things we do here at Waygate Technologies is when we bring new software features to market, so new measurement types. We've done a lot recently with assisted defect recognition, both live and still, the ability to do an analytic for a blade counter. All that software, we want you to get a chance to try out. So anytime you buy a new system, you'll get a 90-day trial on any software that we have on our system if you haven't had it before, or if you already own a Mentor Visual IQ and we update. So coming up shortly, we're going to go from operating system 3.6 to operating system 3.5. We'll roll that out somewhere in late August, early September. You can go in and update your systems over the air. That's a handy feature that we have. You just need to connect to InspectionWorks and do the update, or if you can't do that, we can update with a thumb drive in the field. But when you do that, as soon as you do that, any software features you haven't had before will automatically be on for 90 days. And one of the cool features of the new software that we're going to have is we're going to be able to actually set the terms of that 90-day trial. So before, it just, whenever you turn your system on, if it was new or whenever you updated your system, the 90-day clock started ticking. Now we have some software enabled such that we can sort of control that, which is really nice, I think, for a customer that may need to use it at a certain time. Maybe when they first get their new system, they're not actually using it for that purpose, but then 6 months down the road, they'd like to try that out. So we'll be able to help set up that 90-day trial in a period that it works best for customers. So please always keep that in mind. Try out our new software. It's free to try out. Reach out to your local sales reps. They can help you learn more about it if that's something that could help your workflows. And with that, I want to just thank everyone for joining today. We're a minute past the hour, so we're going to end. I always appreciate the support. Please take the time to fill out the survey and let us know how we can make this even better for you in the future. Tell us what you want to hear about. Goodbye for now.